This is Jonathan Hortsman with Urban Heat, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
One, two, three, four. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
Cool, man. Hey, good to see you.
Awesome. Yeah, good to see you too. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks for taking the time. Where are you located?
Right now, I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay. So is it blazing hot over there?
It is blazing's one way. It's like if you were put in an oven with like a wet blanket, and the steam from that is coming off of it too. You know, so you're not
I
quite
know. I'm in
bursting
Richmond.
into flames. What's that?
Right. I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and it's hot as hell here too. So not
Oh
like there,
yeah,
I'm sure. But
love Richmond. Always,
so
always an interesting
yeah, I
time
like
whenever we're there.
good music scene too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good music. Yeah. So let's just jump right into Urban Heat because I've been jamming "Say the Words" while I was preparing for this, and I don't know what I kind of was thinking about. Um, like 80s stuff. I mean, there's some Depeche Mode stuff in there, but what was, and I just drew a blank, what was Peter Steele's? Oh, Typo Negative. I got a very Typo
Oh,
Negative
word.
feel out of that.
That's awesome. That's quite a compliment. And it's interesting because I feel like there's stuff that we've done in the past. It's been more guitar driven, guitar heavy that I felt like had more of a typo feel. Um, but yeah, maybe it's the Peter still had this like melancholy sort of way of taking a seemingly innocent chord progression and making it something that kind of like made you want to stab yourself in the heart. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's funny. I've always been a Peter Steele fan, and this has nothing to do with Urban Heat, but years ago when I lived in New York, I grew up going to a club called L'Amour, and he was in this band called Carnivore, like a really heavy thrash band, and which had nothing to do with what he did later on with Type O. It was so completely different, but I've always been a fan of his, and that's kind of what I was thinking, like a mishmash of maybe like Depeche Mode, The Cure, but really I caught a strong vibe of Type O for sure, and I dig it.
Oh, that's cool. Oh man, what a compliment. Thank you.
What's been the response to it so far?
So far with Say the Words has been a lot of tears, a lot of like late text. Listen to the new track, wasn't ready for that, you know. It's yeah, I don't know. I tend to put things out and then just like not think about it for a while, you know, just let it kind of like
Mhm.
be in the ether, or like out in the world, and like let the sort of the fan base sort of like take it and kind of let me know what it is and where it stands, you know, with them. So so far the response has been good, but very like emotional.
Right. So this record, The Tower, I believe it's called, it comes out August 16th. Is it complete? And this is the first single, am I correct?
This is the fourth single we put out on it.
Oh, so sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So
We
are you
started.
planning on doing
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Go ahead.
No, are
Are
we
you planning
planning
on
on?
doing like that sort of dropping a single every 6 weeks or something? Is that how you're, the new
That's
business model?
yeah. That's what. So Artifact. This is our first record on Artifact on that label, and they wanted to try the every 6 weeks sort of thing. So we've got one more coming out in I guess 3 or 4 weeks here, and then the record.
So when you were writing the record, are you writing with a certain message in mind, something you want your fans to take away from after listening to an Urban Heat record, or more specifically, The Tower?
Yeah, I think the first record for Wellness, yes, I wanted like people to feel good at the end of it. This one was more I wrote it all kind of in this 2 week span after getting off the road in December of 2022. and so it's just kind of like a slice of like my mind and emotional state after being on the road, and just the fears that I had for the future, and yeah, just kind of a slice of time of like where I was in like that specific moment in time.
Do you ever worry that you've put too much of yourself into a song or that it's too vulnerable?
That's the only thing I worry about. I um yeah, I think that I sidestep that by taking this stance of like the song wants to be what it wants to be, and it's just my job to like help the song along, and like trying to remove myself from the equation. But I think really that's just a spiel in order to keep myself from like admitting that I'm like incredibly vulnerable and scared of having put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, because once it's out, right, you're like, shit, I didn't want anybody to know this, or this is, something that I've not shared with anybody. Now the whole world, or any of my listeners, anyway, at least are hearing it, and that's kind of. But I think that's where true art comes from too, right? That's how you connect when you really get to the raw nerve and put it out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as like an interview, right? Like you can talk to people and there's like the canned sort of like answers where like we're not really communicating on like a certain level, and like that'll get you so far, but like people, that's not what people want to connect with. People can't connect with that, right? Like we aren't canned answers. We aren't our like social media presence. We are this like messy mixture of like everything beautiful and ugly and all of it. And yeah, art, you have to express that.
Right. And I think it becomes more powerful when you really get to the root of it, for sure. In photography, in music, in movies, in whatever.
Yeah, and I mean that's the only way you can get good too, is like being like not being afraid to just like fall on your face.
Right. So I see that you have a bunch of tour dates coming up for the end of the summer, early fall, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing
All European stuff. Because I know you're a dad as well. How you managing all that?
yeah, so we're on the East Coast for a month. We're home for a month, so I'll have my girls then. Then we're on the West Coast or I'm sorry, West Coast for a month, home for a month, East Coast for a month, home for like 3 days, and then we go to Europe. So to be honest, I don't know how we're going to manage that because I've never been gone for that long at one period of time. I'm leaning a lot on my wife's family. I'm leaning a lot on my parents. And yeah, I mean, hopefully in the future we get to the point where I've got the budget to be able to like know that we've got like help at home when I'm gone. But right now it's like any other, family with young kids where both parents are working and just trying to figure it out.
Right. I know it's tough, especially in the music business, right? Because you're going to Europe and it's going to be a bit. What is that, like a 4-week stretch in Europe?
6 weeks. Yeah.
6 weeks. Have you ever been there before?
Not since I was like 18. Yeah.
So you've never played over there?
No, this is our first. Yeah. Which is such a beautiful opportunity doing it with Molchat Doma, because our first time playing Europe is going to be in theaters of like 1,500 to like 4,500, which is what a beautiful way to see Europe,
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting as well, right? How are you preparing to get to do that? Because that's going to also be tiring, right?
Yeah, I'm going to treat this next tour kind of as practice for that. We're going to do a lot less of the kind of social hangs and stuff afterwards, a lot more resting, just protecting my voice. Luckily, that tour, we have a lot of days off. I think it'll be a lot easier on my voice because I really push it. I really use it a lot during tour. But now that you ask me that question, I'm like, I should probably get a vocal coach like ASAP to start working on specific vocal warm-ups and cool downs that can help me. But yeah, man, I don't know, just trying to like get enough rest and eat right and exercise. It's like, how else do you prepare? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Right. The good thing is you have some time off in between, right? So you're going to be able to see some of those sites and see some of those countries you've never been to before. That's
Oh
cool
yeah,
too.
yeah. And we have like 5 days in France, and I'm trying to get my kids out there to be in France for some of that time, even though they won't be able to go multiple dates. But if there's any way that I can get my little ones out there to just see them in Paris or something, that would just be so amazing.
I 100% agree. So I'm going to shift gears here for a second just because something in your bio totally connected with me, and I really want to talk about it real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Upbringing in an Orthodox Christian setting. Holy moly, myself as well. I grew up in evangelical Assembly of God kind of stuff. I don't know what your background is. It's something similar to that, but with the burning of records and the playing music backwards and youth groups and all that shit. And I still to this day call myself a recovering Christian because it so fucked me up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's independent fundamental Bible believing Baptist is how they describe themselves. Yeah, I remember burning a cassette of the Batman Forever soundtrack. And yeah, it's interesting. I've only really recently thought about and tried to start addressing how a childhood with a constant fear of hellfire, how that would
Yes.
affect you, you know?
So I'm going to tell you, I'm in my 50s and it's still, I'm going to sit here and, tell everybody, oh yeah, it's gone. But it really hasn't. It's still sort of ingrained in your head. And I fight that all the time because just like you said, I remember like Friday night youth groups. That was the last thing in everybody's, if you leave here tonight and you get hit by a car, you're going to burn in the fiery pits of hell. And
Mhm.
I mean, that just, you're a little kid. You're 10, 12, 15, whatever. That sticks
Yeah,
with you.
it really dawned on me, thinking about my own children and thinking about, I would consider it some of that shit, like I would consider that abuse if that's how my children were being raised.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I would I would be livid if somebody
Yes.
was telling my kids the things that I was told, and no, it does stick with you. It absolutely does. I watched this documentary. I forget, man. It was on Netflix. I forget what it's called, but there's this cult, and the leader of that cult was saying a lot of stuff that was like, it was just right on line with the way that I was raised, right? And I was like, is this a cult, or is this just like fundamentalism? And then at the end, there were the now grown children in that documentary, right? They're all grown up, and underneath in the byline, it says their name and then says like survivor, right? And I'm like, everything shifted for me. Everything shifted for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like I survived that upbringing, not to knock like anyone's spiritual practice, religion, like all of that. Like what works for you is great, but what I was raised with was abusive.
I 100% agree. And it took so long. Like I said, I'm in my 50s, probably still have, hints of it, but those formative years after, finally walk away from it, it just was so in my head, right? Everything you did. And even though you tried not to, it was still there.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about how so like forgiveness, this idea of you just ask for forgiveness and then everything should be fine, and like I've seen how my relationships have suffered from not having a healthy understanding of what forgiveness really is, of what love really is. It's not this
That's
love
what I
is
was going to say.
not.
Love really.
Yeah,
God.
because I grew up with a kind of love that was very they say that it's this unconditional, right? But it's that for a child, that love feels very conditional. It is very conditional to you following these certain, you know, certain sort of things that you're not allowed to question, you know.
Right. And ignoring everybody else around you who's different.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Growing up, you're just afraid of everyone and everything.
Yep. Crazy. So how do you think it seeps into your music then? Because I mean, you're probably just in the same boat as I am, where I'm still trying to shake it, and it seeps probably into everything I do at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, I think the positive way that it seeps into my music, I think is I've got this, the one thing that I did gain from the church, you know, being like with all the singing and stuff, was a sense of melody and harmony, and going to a space where people sing together, where it's like a, you know, there was this fellowship sort of thing that I try to like. I'm not trying to make our shows anything like church, right? But I think there's like something in the back of my mind that like that thinks that there's something to be gained from people joining together for the purpose of music, right? And getting into that same vibe and headspace. Content wise, that's something that I would probably behoove me to interrogate more. Maybe on the follow-up record we can get some good stuff about that. Let's see what happens.
Because I'm sure it has to, right? I mean, it's pretty much built into who you were in your formative years, and no matter how much you fight that, it's sort of still there. Like I find myself every once in a while thinking, "Man, why am I thinking that?" Or that's absolute insanity. But it's 12 years or 14 years of programming. I don't know what the word is, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, like in indoctrination, it is social programming. Yeah.
Very bizarre. Sorry, I went off on a tangent, but I saw your bio and I was like, man, I got to ask him about this because I talk about it all the time. I sort of struggle, and here I am so many years later, but I can't reconcile it at all.
Yeah. I would love to find a support group, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you something. I listened to a podcast called the Recovering Christians Podcast. It's actually pretty cool. They're very intelligent. They don't really knock anything. They just have guests on and who tell their stories and do this thing. And I found myself really digging it. And I actually identify with that title.
I'm writing that down right now.
Yeah, I like it. And not all of them are great, but some of it is really good stuff. And they approach things from, a more normal point of view, kind of highlighting maybe spirituality and that sort of thing, but not in that sort of rigid dogma. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I found that some content around like atheism and stuff can almost be equally dogmatic in like
yes.
You know what I mean? It's like I don't need to overcorrect, or I just
right. Yeah, I don't know what the word you're looking for is there because I can't figure it either. I just need to do something.
I need to heal. I just need to heal.
That's a great word. Yeah, you're right. And so I don't know if you ever do, because like I said, here I am so many years later. And I think I'm, well past it, and then I find myself that I'm really not, because it was just so ingrained.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Like our life experience, it's not about ever.
Yeah.
Let's go.
One more question, if you don't mind. I like this topic for a second, but did you find yourself going the complete opposite way in sort of rebellion, or before you finally even back out?
Yeah. That's why I used heroin for the first time. That's why I used meth for the first time. That's why I used cocaine for the first time. Was as a direct response, to I had questions about life. I had questions about this world around me, that the answer was always just pointed to, well, what does the church say? What does the church say? What does it say in the Bible? And I'm a 15-year-old kid who I know that it says things here, but I discovered like Christian punk, and I saw kids like not out getting in trouble because like they were going to Christian punk shows. And I thought that was a positive thing. But my youth pastor was telling me that punk music is of the devil, that this is a horrible thing. And I couldn't reconcile that because I was like, you're telling me something is horrible, but I'm watching it do something good. And at that point, I kind of was just like, well, maybe it's all bullshit. And so I needed to figure it out for myself. And I absolutely, yeah, I mean, I spent a good 15 years just trying to destroy myself fully, you know?
So my journey is almost the same, right? So I'm a little older than you. I grew up in the 80s, right around the time Stryper was coming out, heavy metal, Christian music, where like kids started a heavy metal band, a Christian heavy metal band, right? Clearly deciding to write Christian lyrics, and we let our hair grow a little, and they shut that down in half a second. There's no way you can do that and then from then on, it was, complete opposite. I didn't go the heroin route, but it was completely down and like, fuck you for all of this. I'm not interested.
Can you imagine?
Because that's who I was, right? That was me. I'm going to tell you right now, I listened to Ozzy Osbourne's Diary of a Madman one day at a friend's house, which didn't reconcile with the church at all, but it sucked me in. I was like, that's what I like, metal. So when Stryper came around, we're like, cool, it's Christian metal. I mean, how bad could it be? We're singing about Jesus. But it all got shut down immediately.
Can you imagine what the world might look like if all the kids who started Christian rock bands didn't get them shut down? But then at the same time, it's like, maybe we dodged a bullet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened, but man, they were having no part of it. Nope, you can't do this at all.
Yeah. And
then that was the break.
Yeah, because you find something that makes you so alive.
Right.
And in the core of who you are that like this music is good. Like this is it,
Right, because when I heard those drums and that guitar riff, the light went off and went, holy shit, you're 100% right. This is it. This is what I want to do. Where I want to be. This is everything that I feel. It's me.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've been raised in it, like you have enough awareness to know when something feels good and it's bad, and when something feels good and it's actually good. You know what I mean? Like the music was like, oh no, like this is something totally different. This is outside of good and bad. This is existence. This is
right. Sorry, I went down a rabbit hole, but I saw that and I figured we could have a little bit of a connection on it. So going back to Urban Heat then, what do you have next? What are you doing before you get to Europe? You got a quick
we've got a couple months in the States and Canada, doing a festival in Dallas here July 6th, and then doing a festival Terminus in Canada on July 24th, I think. Then we head to El Rey Theater, start the West Coast run, get up to Chicago, going to do Cold Waves up there. Just making some content. We're doing a fundraiser for the European tour, trying to make some cool merch and sell some records, just trying to do the thing.
If fans want to find you, support you, listen to you, give us your socials, please.
Yes, that's at Urban Heat Band. That's going to be the one for TikTok and Instagram. And then the website is urbanheatband.com. So it's just always Urban Heat Band, and that'll get you where you need to go.
Is there a Patreon or one of those things? You said you're doing fundraising.
Yeah. We're using a platform called Give Butter. They take very low percentages. Like the artist gets to keep more of what's donated. So I really like that platform, and links to that are on our Instagram and our website as well.
Awesome. Did I miss anything you wanted to cover? I know I kind of wandered, but I like to talk. So
no, man, I just want to say this was like really refreshing. We've been doing a lot of press for this record, and I know that was, a tangent or whatever, but like that, I could talk. I could talk to you all day. This was great, Bruce. Thank you so much.
I read the review. I mean, I read the bio, and I'm like, shit, we're gonna have a lot to talk about here. So, and I like to keep the show a little bit different than everybody asking, where'd you get the name from of the band, or where'd you get the name of the record from? Because you get that asked 100 times, right? So we try and just, if I find something that we can actually, have common ground on or chat about, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Because we're all
amazing.
human. So anyway, I didn't see your routing. I don't know if you're making it through Virginia at all.
Yeah, I think we should be I think we're doing Richmond again this time. I need to do.
Okay.
I've been so busy with promoting that European fundraiser. I got to get back on promoting the U.S. tour because we got a lot to do before then.
I'll take a look at the routing. If you're here, I'll come catch you.
Awesome, man. It'd be great to meet you in person.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.
Be safe. Yeah, be safe on the road. Kick some ass, and hopefully we'll see you in Richmond.
Yes, sir. See you soon.
All right. Bye.